Thank you for coming on. I do appreciate you giving me your time in the middle of rehearsals. You've just finished Parsifal.
I have, yes.
And you're in the middle of rehearsals at the moment again for the next big one.
Yeah, Katya Kavanova, yes, which is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
New language for me, the Czech language.
Yeah.
And tricky piece, but a great character I'm playing. Yeah,
Oh,
but
awesome.
horrible guy, but who makes a total fool of himself, which is probably quite good for me to
Stick your teeth into.
yes.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into singing and performing?
How did I get into singing? I was brought up in a little town in Lancashire called Oswald Twistle. It's an industrial, rather comical name, an industrial area, primarily textile factories, cotton.
Okay.
So my mother, for instance, left school at 12 and went to work in the cotton mills age 12. This was in about 1917. She was born in 1905. And in such an industrial area, a bit like sort of Wales, South Wales, there's a lot of industry. There was also coal mining and there was some ironworks as well. People need a bit of light relief. So when they finish work, they sing in choirs.
Yeah.
They play in brass bands. And on Sunday, a lot of vociferous singing in the Methodist chapel.
Yep.
And then there's sort of amateur dramatics, and also in our house there's singing around the piano. So I mean, basically, what I'm trying to say is I was brought up singing.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of 5 children, and when I was little, it was before television actually. So a lot of singing around the piano. I had 2 baritones senior to me in the family, and a mezzo and a soprano older than me. My mother was a nice soprano singer, and my dad played a few chords on the piano. So that's I was brought up in a singing community.
Yeah.
My dad, my uncle John, conducted the local male voice choir, and an aunt of mine, his wife, gave me my first singing lessons when I was 16 or something.
Wow.
She was a great soprano. And another aunt played the organ in the chapel, gave me my piano lessons.
Yeah.
I was surrounded by music, and I was surrounded particularly by singing. All strictly amateur.
Yeah.
No money involved at all. This was for the joy of singing, joy of making music. It was like for spiritual, life-enhancing activity when you're spending all day in the mill.
Wow.
Basically, I mean, that's
very cool.
I'm simplifying it, but that's roughly what it was.
I'm the only musician in my family. We don't have any music background at all. And so I imagine, how did singing with your family members and just having that time one-on-one around the piano, does that just tighten those bonds a lot more? Did you find that was a really good bonding experience?
What, for the family?
Yeah, for the family. I'd imagine it would be.
It was so natural to me.
Okay.
I mean, it was just something that we did, and particularly Handel and Gilbert and Sullivan and Elijah Mendelssohn, these great, and then as I said on Sundays, in the chapel, really sort of singing, 4-part harmony, the perfect democratic way of singing. Everybody in the chapel, whether they're bricklayers or whether they're sort of whoever they are, they can sing the high line or they can sing the lowest line, or you can invent your own you can invent your own line. And so, I mean, I was brought up with 4-part harmony.
Wow.
And when my voice broke, I was a sort of boy treble. And then when my voice broke, I was just sort of improvising my own bass line and sort of singing my head off, really. So I suppose the main thing about it is that singing was just a natural part of life.
Yeah.
And the physicality of it was there. The really sort of breathing properly and sort of letting the air come through and really making a big sound. That was part of my growing up. And so all of that was very natural. But to me, it was a purely amateur thing. I mean, I didn't in those early stages think of it as a way of earning a living.
Yeah.
Oh. That didn't occur to me until I was perhaps, 19, 20.
Okay. And when you reached that age, did you study at a conservatoire or did you just continue private lessons, or how did you develop your voice?
Academically, I did maths, physics, chemistry at school, and then I went on to do an engineering degree in Manchester at the university. So I did this Well, that was 64 to 67. I was sort of, 18 to 21 or something at my age. But I was singing all the time. I was in the Gilbert and Sullivan University Society and did, the Sergeant of Police in 1966 or something when I was, 19. And did Pooh Bar the next year. So this was all happening alongside my engineering studies, singing concerts, Messiah, Creation, the great oratorios in the local community when I was at University of Manchester. And I became rather frustrated with my limitations as a singer. And in the middle of my engineering degree, when I was perhaps about, 19 years old or something, I put a notice on the notice board of the Royal Manchester College of Music, as it was then. It was the Royal Manchester College, an old Victorian building on Diva Street. And singing lessons required. Just a note, singing lessons required, please contact me at this. And a man called Patrick McGuigan, who was a teacher at the college, a baritone, an Irishman, turned out to be a wonderful teacher. I was with him for 4 years. He responded. And I started going to him alongside doing the engineering. And when I finished the engineering degree, we discussed about me coming to college because my voice was coming on really well. And so I got a scholarship to the college at that time, and I was there for 4 years under the tutelage of Paddy, as we call it, Patrick McGuigan, who was a very physical, singing teacher, dealing in very concrete terms with a singing voice.
So when you say physical, was he hands-on? Because I've had singing teachers in the past press my diaphragm, just try and manually move me to positions they wanted me to be in.
Yes, all of those things. Okay. He was also a great artist actually as well as a singer. So that was great. But my 4 years at college, that was when I was 21 to 24 or something like that, were incredibly valuable. It was a whole new world. The operas, the acting work was completely new to me. Yeah. I had never walked on a stage as an actor and inhabited a role ever until I went to music college. So that was a whole new world, as well as all the musicianship, crucial, the languages, improvisation, the sort of some academic work. Not that in those days, not that much academic work musically. But my first year there, I was having 3 singing lessons a week with Patrick McGuigan down in the basement of that old college. That's a luxury these days. You don't, you'd be very fortunate if you got 3 lessons, 3 hour-long lessons a week. So I was really working intensively, and that was just incredibly valuable. And then started to do things in the operas, and the whole discovery of theatre was immense, because acting basically is crucial to the art of singing. If you're singing an art song in a room, you have to be an actor. Yeah. You have to be inhabiting the piece, don't you? Who are you? Why are you singing this? And giving meaning to every phrase and every word. So, the theatrical experience I got at college permeated the whole of my singing, I think. Wow. So that was crucial.
Did you how do you navigate all the languages? It's a very new thing, especially, I don't want to speak for you, but I know from my background, rural family as well, it was something that I wasn't exposed to, just the second languages and stuff like that. Did you have a bit of a base, or was that something completely new to you? And was it difficult?
I studied some French at school and a little bit of Spanish, but the truth is I'm not basically such a good linguist. The only language I'm really comfortable in now is German, on a day-to-day basis. I can speak German pretty well, and I'm very comfortable in German because I've spent so long in Germany and I've sung so many German roles. So my grammar's a bit Wagnerian. Yeah. But of course, Italian, Russian. I read the Cyrillic. I read the Russian, and I understand it very well. Yeah. Italian, but German, I really understand, all of those huge Wagner parts I've done. I understand every sort of nut and bolt in every sentence,
Yeah.
But the truth is, I was not a natural linguist. I was not one of these people who I envy, who I've worked with, who they spend a week in France and they're sort of chatting away, but loads of mistakes.
Yeah.
But they're sort of to some extent fluent, in a way which, and I never was like that.
Yeah.
And I always envied that. But I love languages. I mean, I love the way that a language brings out a different aspect of the voice. In each language has got a different colour. But just one thing I would say is that, I mean, at the moment, as I said, I'm doing Czech for the first time. So I'm being checked on, to a bit of boring pun, every rehearsal we have.
Yeah.
And it's going well. The language is going well. But I would just say that, vocal technique is crucial to the singing of all languages. If, let's say if you define vocal technique as being the ability to sing every note in your whole range beautifully on all of the vowels.
Okay. Yep.
Loud or soft.
Yep.
Let's say that's a total. That's what you're.
I'd be happy if I could do all that.
attempting to do, isn't it? Yeah. Amongst other things, but that's if you can do that, then your ability to sing in a foreign language is greatly enhanced.
Okay.
You can really. What am I trying to say? That it's not just understanding the language and understanding the rules of pronunciation. Of course, you have to do that, but you have to have the voice has to be in a suitable shape to be able to deliver those vowels.
Yeah. Securing the voice before worrying about what
they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But don't underestimate. If you've got a great vocal technique, your languages are going to be far better.
Yeah.
If you have limitations in your vocal technique, it's going to show up in your pronunciation of languages. Also in English, of course. I mean, there's nothing wrong with English as a language to sing in. I mean, I know it's phonetically on the page, it comes out very differently than it looks on the page, and that's difficult for foreign singers, for instance. But as an actual language, it's a beautiful language to sing.
Yeah. And like you said, build that foundation so that all the other stuff you can build on top of. You can just start layering on that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to just, developing as a singer, it's working on all things, all of everything together, as I've sort of hinted at. The more you can be on stage, acting, inhabiting a role in another character's shoes, the more hours you can do that.
Yeah.
The more it develops your imagination. And that imagination carries through to your whole repertoire.
Yeah.
Including sort of, Victorian parlour songs or something. It's all the same stuff, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Maria Callas doing one of her concerts, a brilliant actress in a concert, totally still. But in the eyes and behind the eyes, incredible acting going on.
It's full of energy, full of life.
Yes, and imagination, everything.
Yeah.
So that's what made her concerts so great. That's just one example. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Touching on that, how do you prepare for a role? If you encountered a new opera, or even if it's something you've done before, how do you go about your preparation for that?
Well, a little bit the same. You're working on all aspects the whole time. You're thinking about the character. First of all, there really is the text. First of all, it's translating the text. Working on pronunciation. It all depends if it's a familiar language to you or if it isn't. Working on pronunciation. I mean, I learned to play the piano quite early, and I'm not a great pianist, but I can play anything sort of slowly. Just being at the piano, I sort of hum my line. You just get the feeling of the harmonies, you know.
Yeah.
And then learn the tune, learn your line. you know. And then start singing. I mean, start singing your line. And when it's appropriate, go to a coach to develop it further, or go to a language coach if that's what you need.
Yeah.
But you can do a vast amount of work by yourself in all these aspects.
Yeah.
I live an hour out of London, and for an awful lot of my working life, I've commuted to London. Let's say a third of my working life has been commuting to London, but the other third might have been abroad. I've been abroad a lot, but on all those train journeys, I spent a lot of time silently learning roles. This is another thing I learned at college, the ability to read music, basically, which, although I played the piano, I wasn't able to read a line accurately, to sight sing, basically. So on the train for many hours, I will be sight singing silently in my head, learning my line, basically, and learning text, and some wonderful time studying with language coaches. I remember a Russian coach in London I spent many hours with on the Hungarian coach I've got great affection for, Gabor, I worked with for many hours, and the Italian, German, wonderful German coach in Hilda in Covent Garden, and so and then you start singing the lines. Then you go to a coach and work. It's like painting the fourth bridge in a way. You go over it. You go over the text. You go over the translation. You go over the pronunciation. You start singing the line. You play the piano vaguely, and you get to know the harmonies. And then you go to a coach, and it just builds up. And then you find yourself at the first music rehearsal of a new production or something, and then you're on in the rehearsal stage. And the great thing about opera, the thing that's really healthy and that I love, is that you get away then from the score.
You're not stuck in the book.
You're not stuck in the book. You have to. You're away from the book, and you're actually living the role. Which is a great feeling of freedom, as long as you know, as long as you've learned the part.
I think there's a lot to be said about that silent practice. I know a lot of young singers just feel like they constantly need to be singing away, singing at the piano, but there's a lot to be said about just taking that time, quietly go through it, just page by page, not like you said, humming to yourself, or just processing it on your own. I know personally, I used to, I'd take my score to the gym with me and put it on the treadmill, and I'd have it playing while I was doing a jog, and I'd try and breathe the lines or the phrasings whilst running, which helped a lot with my breath control. But
I'm sure.
Just that silent preparation, I think, is a massive boon.
Well, that's something I've never done, go on the treadmill. But when it comes to sort of actually singing, I agree with you about, it's not great singing too much when you're learning it, possibly, but when you're in the rehearsal room, it's good, and you're free from the score. It's good to sing properly. In the rehearsal period, which might be, let's say, a month or 5 weeks or something, every day, you don't bust a gasket, don't sing your head off. But with real bel canto, real proper sort of support and breathing and everything, sing really well. And then when it comes to the first night, it's just, it just happens. That would be that's what I've always done, particularly with roles involving stamina. If you're doing these long Wagnerian parts, just sing really well every day in rehearsal, and then it just happens on the first night. The muscles are all tuned up, your voice is in good shape. It's not great to mark too much when you're actually in the rehearsal room. That's my personal view. But of course, everybody has to find their own path, their own way.
Do you what advice would you give your younger self in terms of your prep that you do now that you might not have always done, or that when you started you didn't do it that way? Is there anything that you think you could have benefited from if you had a time machine?
Well, one thing, it's slightly going off the track, but in your career as a whole, I think it's best not to have grandiose plans for your career. I think it's best not to leave college and say, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be the greatest this or whatever. Just go day to day, sing really well every day, enjoy your work, really get into it, the language and the character and the acting and the singing. Always, it's very important that you're always singing well. That's the bedrock of what we do. And that will bring the career with it.
Yeah.
Every day somebody will hear you, oh yeah, I've got a concert to do, or you do a performance, oh, you were doing this, would you like to do?
Yeah.
Things will come from your performance.
Yeah.
I think that's important. But you were saying about preparation, what have I learned? I would just say, as slowly learn accurately. Everything that you put in your brain when you're working on a role should be correct. Language, so notes, rhythm, everything. Don't put into your brain because you're in a hurry.
Yeah.
Anything which is sketchy.
Okay.
It's a computer, your brain, isn't it? So you're learning a role. So everything you put in there, make sure it's right and it's solid.
Don't interrupt the file while it's uploading.
Yes, but don't be in a hurry.
How long do you like to leave for preparing a role? Like you said, you'd like to take your time.
Take your time. Well, these long Wagnerian roles, perhaps a year. Let's say Hans Sachs in Meistersing, which is the longest role in the repertoire. It's 2.5 hours to sing in a room. It's hugely long, but it's very parlando, a lot of it, so it's doable. That might take 2 years to learn. If you're learning it really slow, is really good. So don't hurry. Just be workmanlike, and everything that goes in there should be correct and should be solid. What's the phrase? More haste, less speed. More haste, less speed is not a good idea. Slow, and you will be surprised how quickly you learn a role when you just are in a workmanlike way. Keep working through the text, through the line, through the music, sing it, for the first time. Just keep going through it, and as long as you're really concentrating and really on the ball, you will learn it quicker than you think.
Yeah. It just goes in via osmosis and just essentially the more you hack at it.
But if you're sketchy, if you're unreliable, if you just quickly do stuff and sort of sing it wrong and get it wrong, if you habitually sing a wrong note, it's very hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
If you learn something wrongly, it's very hard to, it just causes trouble. So
you've worked with
don't do it.
Yeah. You've worked with some really interesting people in your career. I was looking at your bio and doing your research before this. Is there anyone you've worked with that's inspired you as an artist? The people, have you ever encountered someone, perhaps an idol? Or
Did you look on my website?
No, I looked you up on I did a Google search and popped through.
I have a website and I've got an archive and I've got a page for each year.
Okay.
And it's got all the roles I did in that year and lots of pictures and stuff. I would recommend. It's just really interesting to see. It goes back to the 60s, sort of thing. Black and white pictures for 20 years, and then whatever it was, slides. Came transparencies came in, and now it's all digital. So.
Yeah.
Idols. Well, I've worked with so many great people and so many people who've inspired me a lot that I would not know where to begin. When I was at college, I was listening to singers like Nikolai Gyaurov.
Okay.
This was in the 60s. I was at college, 67 to 71. Boris Christoph, these people, and Robert Merrill.
Yep.
But baritone, but And they were an inspiration, just listening to them, as to what I was sort of trying to become. But honestly, I hesitate. I wouldn't know where to begin. You know, like conductors like Bernard Haitink, conductors like Tony Pappano, Daniel Barenboim. I've done 18 roles with Daniel Barenboim. I mean, we did our first ring cycles together, Daniel Barenboim and me, in 1988. You know, he was amazingly, those were his first, and I was his first Wotan. And those were great years in Bayreuth, 87, 88. I was in Bayreuth for 18 years, actually, 18 summers, singing Wotan for 10 years. So what could I say about somebody like Daniel Barenboim? You know, the brilliance of somebody like him, the improvisatory ability he has in performance to just have new ideas.
Yeah.
And you know, just so refreshing and so thrilling, really. And I could probably mention, you know, a dozen conductors of, you know, exceptional quality, who've been so important, and directors. You know, Graham Vick, when he was alive, I did 5 productions, great productions. The Master Singers, Pelléas and Mélisande here, I did Golo, Moses and Aaron at the Metropolitan New York with him, Hoffman at the Colosseum, and something, Midsummer Marriage, I think, at Covent Garden. You know, a director like him, Richard Jones, wonderful directors, and then singers. You know, I wouldn't know where to start. Really.
Yeah. Were you ever?
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Were you ever in? I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but were you ever nervous coming to work with these people who have a bit of clout when you're starting out?
Yeah, I mean, when I started out, it was still the age of the dictatorial conductors and directors,
Yeah.
and some singers, some great prima donnas, you know. Who, I remember a concert with Montserrat Caballé, who, a wonderful singer. Oh, this is difficult actually. I don't know. But you know, there were a lot of great people who had huge personalities, and particularly conductors and directors could be very dictatorial. Things have changed a lot since then. I mean, partly because of new regulations have come in regarding bullying and all this, you know, this stuff, you know, in the last 10 years. But so these big guys were intimidating.
Yeah.
And as a young singer, the first time I remember going to Paris to singing Banco, Georges Prêtre was the conductor, and I mean he was really, you know, I was really put through the mill, you know, in that rehearsal.
Yeah.
Really tested with no mercilessly, you know. That's just one little example, and that von Karajan, you know, for von Karajan the same, you know, just razor sharp. You know, I did the Verdi Requiem with von Karajan in Berlin. It was, you know, it was fantastic. And I did things that I didn't think I was capable of. I sang more quietly than I thought, you know, that I was capable of singing.
Yeah.
More legato than I thought I was capable of singing. And but in rehearsal, you dare not say one word with contrary to what he was suggesting. You know, you wouldn't say, for instance, Maestro, could we perhaps take this a little slower or something? You know, you've got to look,
Yeah.
a steely look. how dare you even suggest that this tempo is wrong, you know. And so that, but away from the podium, he was absolutely charming. He was a wonderful man. He was a charming man.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty testing, probably more so in those days than now. People generally are nicer these days.
With that, how did you, dealing with those influences, how did you try and portray what you wanted to do artistically when you came to a role, when you're dealing with someone who's like got very firm ideas about things? You pick your battles? Do you?
Well, I think I think being an opera singer, in a way, the great skill is you are taking information from all directions. You know, conductor, director, you're being told what to do, basically. By conductor, told what to do by director, other colleagues with ideas, and faithful to the text, faithful to the notes. You know, we have to satisfy all these conditions. Beautiful singing, projected singing, and all these things. And we have to bring all these threads together and weave them into a performance. That's what we have to do. Now, if somebody's telling you something that you don't agree with, I mean, of course, this is quite sophisticated and complex, isn't it? But let's say somebody's telling you, let's say a director's telling you something you disagree with. It's often counterproductive to argue. You might discuss it, but it could well be best to go along with it, but then slowly introduce changes as you go through the rehearsal period, and more to the way you feel comfortable with and the way you see the character yourself.
Yeah.
And then probably the director in a couple of weeks will think that it's their idea. You know, what a good idea to do this. And in fact, it's something that you have secretly introduced. So what I'm trying to say is there's a skill, a diplomacy, a skill in doing that, so that you're not betraying the conductor, you're not betraying the director, you're sort of working with these people to produce a performance you're really comfortable and happy with.
Okay.
But that's a particular skill, I think, that opera singers have to have.
Yeah. Being diplomats, knowing when to push, when to not push, and how to go about things.
I just said, weaving all these, everything is directed at you. This is too early. This is sharp. This is flat. This is, you're coming in too early. Don't move so. Don't walk. I want you over by the window for this line, and I want you there for this line, and all of this stuff, and you're being faithful to the score with all its detail, and the skill of an opera singer is to just weave all these things together, so that by the first night it's a sort of seemingly completely convincing natural performance of a role. That's the object, so that every note and every word appears to be fresh.
Have standards changed in your career? Have you noticed any difference between the start and where we are now? Are people turning up prepared? Is there a different standard in the rehearsal space?
Things have changed enormously. After a couple of years here at Glyndebourne in the early 70s, I was in the English National Opera Ensemble. There was an ensemble then of about 40 singers for 6 years. And I was sort of understudying and doing small parts and all sorts of things. And the whole of that ensemble, they were wonderful singers. They had physical projecting voices. They had great diction. The words hit the back of the auditorium. And they always did a good show. They always put on a great show. But they were unsophisticated people, in a way. They were great artists. It just showed, but they were not academic.
Okay. Can you expand on that?
They were not academic people. They were not intellectuals.
Okay.
I mean, to be a great singer, you do not need to be an intellectual. To be a great singer, you don't need to be an academic. I mean, Luciano Pavarotti, who's just my hero. He's one of my heroes. Perfect vocal technique. I did quite a few recordings with him in London, and he was a great, sophisticated artist. But he was not an academic. He was not an intellectual. He was a very simple guy.
Yeah.
And you do not need to be an academic to be a great singer.
Okay.
It's a different thing. I mean, I think I learned that very early on, because the whole team at the Colosseum in the 70s, they were great artists, but they were very simple people.
Yeah.
They were like workers.
Yeah.
It was a working class. The feeling was one of craftsmen, of working class people doing a really good job. And there was nothing airy-fairy about it.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that's changed is surtitles. Their diction then, it was not so much about legato and a beautiful smooth line and lovely singing all the time. People had to understand. There were no surtitles, so you actually spat out the text. And some of those people, I mean, it was like rifle shot, the text, absolutely incredible. So the actual style of singing has changed since then because of surtitles. I think we are singing more legato, more beautifully, and we're not so as concerned about text because everybody can read it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple, practical thing. I think that's probably had a huge effect. I mean, you even get cases now of a singer turning up stage, singing something so quietly you can barely hear the line at all, but you see the surtitles. So so it's had a profound effect. That.
Have audiences changed?
There were great days in the 70s at the Colosseum in that every night there was a show at 7:30. People didn't book. They didn't book a ticket. They just finished work, had something to eat and thought, why don't we go to the Collie tonight?
Yeah.
It could be Figaro, it could be Flying Dutchman, it could be Electric, it could be, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just showed up, there was always a show on.
Yeah.
And so it was generally pretty full every night. So that's changed. Now you book ahead, you plan ahead, you sort of book all this stuff. Nobody would think of turning up to the opera without having booked.
Yeah.
It's a bit like going to the pictures, Yeah. So it was a bit more. It was great. It was, and all this nonsense about exclusivity. The opera's exclusive and inaccessible for ordinary people. I mean, back then, it seemed to me, just everybody went to the opera.
Yeah.
And in the 80s and 90s, opera was really on the avant-garde. I mean, it was more as an art form. It was a very, very. It was at the, the front of things. It was, for the last 20 years, the terrain has been more difficult for opera.
Yeah.
It doesn't get a good press in the media. They keep going on about inaccessibility. And the funding from the taxpayer is less and less and less because fewer and fewer people are going to the opera, and so it's a vicious circle. So it's, the successful opera companies now are companies like Glyndebourne's and other Glyndebournes throughout the country, from Loughborough to Garsington, and so they are doing well. That's private money.
Yeah.
So that's great, but it's a big change.
Yeah.
I think now Covent Garden gets very little taxpayers' money. Colosseum is having a hard time trying to move to Manchester, and so it's difficult for them.
Makes it hard.
The opera world is not thriving in the way, in this country, in the way it was. And I mean, in Germany, where there are so many houses, even in Germany, it's not quite as successful as it used to be for some reason.
Do you think that you can trace that to the fact of the lack of families sitting around a piano playing music together? Like you talked about your upbringing. That's not a common thing now.
No, it
and
isn't.
Church singing is not as common as it once was.
No.
Do you think that's...
And television has had a colossal, I mean, now with streaming, Netflix and everything. But I mean, when I was a little boy, there was no television, so you sang around the piano. And then it has these technological advances have altered things a lot, one way or another, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I won't take up much more of your time. Have you got any closing advice for young singers starting out in the industry?
I think I've said it all, really.
Just head down, bum up, work hard.
Yeah, don't have grandiose plans. Sing beautifully every day, and just technically, when I do master classes and I work with singers, the thing that I always keep coming back to, that always seems to be missing, not always missing, but quite often, is abdominal muscles, diaphragmatic muscles, what they are doing. They provide the control, they provide the projecting power. They're so important, and they're neglected in singing teaching, I think.
Yeah.
And the mechanism of those muscles is quite simple. Without going into detail, it's just those two sets of muscles, the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles, that work together. The mechanism is quite simple, but it needs to be working properly.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Pleasure, Daniel.